You
Good morning. Suzanne, I am going to start this with maybe something that makes sense. It did anyway at about 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning last night. But um, I wanted to introduce the topic again as to why we're doing this 5 weeks on what it means, the archetype of the truth teller. And actually, the School of Light Collective, when this information was downloaded by our sister Patricia Weld Hopkins, this there's 5 light beings that hold the pillars of the school. And the light being that we are starting with, or the archetype that we're starting with, is truth teller. And this is our 3rd week as we go through this time. And I love the fact that we're doing this at this time of Leo and the expression time. And we're following this particular light being's activation sequence. So we talked about her life's work, and we'll refer to her as her. And we talked about last week was her evolution and moving in, through that challenging space. Now we've gone across to the other side of that, and where radiance is. When we're operating in our life's work, having met the challenges of our evolution, we start to show up. And so the radiance this week that we're talking about, and then we're going to tie it into the pulse. And I hope that you can see how they all dance together. So will you take it from here for a minute? Because I don't.
Sure. The radiance of this key of this light being is invention. So it's that creative impulse. If you think of the word invention, or just feel into the frequency of the word invention for a moment, and allow that to just imbibe your spirit. And recognize that all that is creative impulse of our beingness.
And it's what we do. We invent each moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And very often we do what's habit, which is the shadow of this, and the addiction, which is to go back to what is it that I don't want to feel, don't want to become, don't want to move into, don't want to feel on some level. And those old patterns, we're just going to call addictions. They could be the typical ones we think of drugs and alcohol, all of that. Right. But any of those things that keep us from creating and inventing ourselves in every new moment in this life. And I feel like this would be a good time to bring this in. In the Pulse newsletter, if anybody saw it this week, Richard sent a beautiful letter of, it wasn't the solace, the invocation of solace, even though I've been doing that every day lately. But it was basically about, this is a tough time. And it is not going to get easier. We are burning down karmic ways of being. And once we finish with ours, then we get to support the collective. We chose to be here, to be awake and aware of what this time was about, this great change. And as we move through this bumpy times, it is not going to feel good. It is not going to be comfortable. It is not going to feel like, oh, we're flying high. We will have moments, but there's a lot of heaviness, and sometimes it comes out in physical. Susanne knows I've been like, oh, don't feel like that. The last week has been particularly rough for me. And so what I'm trying to do is love that. Love this process of transmutation, because that's where the transformation happens. So I wanted to take a moment to talk about that we are aware that we're not here to operate from our gifts at 100% all the time. That should not be your goal. It is the goal to stop, to allow this stuff to move through us. And this is where we get to invent new ways of being, new ways of operating in the tough times versus fighting back, versus trying to understand, versus all those things that we've done in the past.
Yeah. This is not reactivity. This is about you acknowledging and recognizing your pure essence.
Each of us, not just you, me, us.
All of us.
Yeah.
And so as he talks about in the 24th key, which is the invention, when we're operating in the density, that's the shadow, right? And to help transmute it, we really focus on the citic state, right? But we're not going to be operating at the citic state. But what comes out of moving and focusing our energy on the citic state is our gifts. And so the citic state of this is silence, right? So if we have that time where we can you put the mind and quiet it and say that, and you drop into that silence, that's where all of the beautiful cosmic energy comes through, and it inspires you, inspired action.
Us. This is not a message for anybody else. It's for us.
It's for us. Yes. Us. So true silence reigns when he says, when the mechanism controlling your awareness moves from your head down into your solar plexus.
Which means your mind might still be chattering, but our center of awareness has moved down. And he talks a lot about embodiment of the stuff that we're going through, which is when many of us, more spiritually awake or conscious people, want to pray it away, want to ask our angels and guides, just take it away. We want it to go. We have our own ways of doing that, which is another form of not being with what is. So we need to be conscious of that this is not something that we get to go. What we can do is go, where can my higher wisdom state take the driver's wheel today? Because I am tired of laying around processing all this heavy energy. So there is a way to be in this life and still move.
Right.
But it's kind of always there, along with the noisy mind, until by just pure, what did you call it? Like the visiting of the space or focusing on the space, we actually experience that state.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hope that makes sense, because I feel like it's such a pertinent message for us all. It's tying about 12 different things into one, but it's bringing it into the present, which is what we're here to be, in the present.
Yeah.
What else do you have for us about the gift of innovation? Because that just feels like something that has never been before.
It's kind of interesting because when I was really feeling into it, it's the spiral. So you may feel fragments or pieces that feel familiar, but we're up leveling. And so it's getting to your roots, finding the essentials, and then building on it. So it's that growth. This key is in the family of the ring of life and death, the codon ring of life and death.
That's what it feels like.
And so
I mean, I feel like, doesn't
wheel.
it feel like this is a big, but I don't know why I feel like the wheel is like, just, it doesn't, it feels like we can't play. I mean, we need to play, but I mean, we can't pretend like this is not happening. This is big. And this is what I think addiction, which is the shadow of this invention thing, wants us to do, is like, let's just put our little eye shades on and go back to sleep because it's ugly out there. And I'm like, no, we kind of need to put on our glasses and like see it all, you know?
Well, and I also think that each person has their own focus. I mean, we don't need to be focusing on everybody else's business.
Oh God, no, but we can
focusing on our own polishing of our own stuff.
Yeah, and our own embodiment. Like I want to feel, I keep thinking, okay, there are a lot of different dimensions of beings that are not in human bodies. And they're going, oh, feel it all. Feel the ugliness. Feel the craziness. And I'm like, hey, easier for you to say, but I'm like, that's why I'm here. I am here to feel for the Gaia star, feel for the different dimensions and realms. That's my job. And so I'm not going to play, oh, let's just watch, a day's worth of Netflix shows, which by the way, their prices are going up. And then I have to make a decision about that. And then, drink a bottle of wine and eat a bag of chips. I mean, those days are gone because now I'm like, I'm not hiding from it anymore. This is my job. I don't like it all the time, but
well, it's a good thing.
I signed up for this.
It's a good thing that we're partnered with the gene key of 7 this week and talking about.
Can we go there or do we want to talk some more about? So anyway, questions for everyone is when you're playing with this archetype for you, this version of the inventor within the truth teller, because we all have this, we can all call upon this. I mean, it is like, to me, it's almost like I am putting on, we've been cleaning out the basement. I'm putting on a costume to be a loud, roaring, truth-telling, wise woman right now. And at moments, I can actually feel the role all the way down in my cells. And then there's other times I'm like, what am I doing? I mean, so it, and it feels awkward. And so, but I feel like we're creating, we're inventing ourselves again and again in this space. So my question is, where I want us all to reflect on, how do I want to what is it I need to what do I want to invent in my persona, in my life, in my space, to allow me to step into that truth teller, that form of leadership, that form of standing up and speaking up and being authentically expressed. That's where I'm going to be today. Okay. Go on with the pulse. Sorry, I interrupted.
It's part of it is learning from our past and accepting those blessings and doing something with it. And we didn't get those just on happenstance.
Really? They weren't just the cards we were dealt?
Who chose that path?
I'm joking.
So once we acknowledge the pattern and we see the pattern, then we can do something with it.
Absolutely.
So in partnering with this week's Gene Key, which is the 7th, that is all on guidance. And we are our own medicine, just so that everybody knows we don't have to always look outside of ourselves, as Deborah was alluding. its shadow is division, but the acidic state or the highest state is virtue, and we get there through guidance. And this is really in the heart center, which is funny because it talked about in the last key, the 24th gene key, bringing everything down into the solar plexus. So it feels very aligned. And this is about the power behind the throne.
I love this.
And, you know, when I feel into that, I've been feeling a lot of dragon energy through this. And like not putting up with stuff, my own BS included. Like it's time, it's go time. So you're gonna have to make different choices now and be flexible and be resilient and do the things that feel maybe a little uncomfortable and just get it done.
Yeah.
And it's and what I realize is that each one of us, as we're stepping that threshold, this is beyond each one of us. This is stepping into service for a greater us.
Yeah.
Collectively. So it's like, put your big girl pants on and like, let's do this. Let's go.
And that's basically, it's been like my rallying cry. Like, you're okay. You can still get up and go do, because I literally have felt like I've had one of my teachers calls it the fluky flu or something. It's like, it's the energy moving through that creates all these weird symptoms.
Yeah.
And I mean, there for a while, I was actually thinking about going to an urgent care because I had such a sharp pain. And guess where it was? Solar plexus. So I'm laughing.
Yeah, mine was right, and on Friday, right on my heart.
Yeah. And Saturday, mine was right underneath my rib cage. And I'm like, oh, that is too funny. And it was like, I get it. My heart's connecting to because it was, you know, on the same side as my heart. And I'm like, we're just reconnecting all the energy flows. But it was funny. I have this quote that I wanted to read about the Gene Key 7. The seventh Gene Key definitely has potent leadership potential, but they're not always leaders per se. They're people with influence in any group. The seventh Gene Key carries this power that when it speaks, others will listen. So again, we've got this truth teller quote coming from Richard Rudd, and that was in the 64 Ways book. So where I want to play, and this is just a contemplative, reflective question for us all, is where can I guide? Where can I listen to where everyone is and speak with a way that people will hear me? And speak with, lately I have been asking to speak to heal, speak to, maybe even the words aren't completely understood by the person, but that the energy, the presence behind the words is one of solace, is one of, we're all in this together, we're okay, you know? And so this particular Gene Key is in my SQ. So it's near and dear to my heart. I feel like I've been in this space since I was very, very little and grew up around a lot of division. You know, my parents were divorced when I was 2. So there's lots of stories. But the point being is that I was always the one, even at the age of 4, I remember telling jokes, stealing the show. After dinner, I would come in and perform for all the adults in the living room, my dance routine that I was going to be doing in my ballet rehearsal thing. I mean, you know what I mean? I was always the one that was like, they're too serious. I need to change the energy. I didn't know that then. I just knew that I wanted them to, you know, I wanted the space to feel different. And so how can we can guide with our energy just by the way we're standing in a grocery line, by the way that we respond when someone says, oh, today's primary voting here, and it is intense. I mean, we've been getting phone calls and texts and TV. I don't watch TV, but the ads I heard are crazy. And it's like, I know that going to the polls this morning is going to be really fun for me because I'm just going to go in there like, you know, this is about love. How can we love each other more?
This is right in the calibration center. This is the solar plexus, the key.
Connecting. Yeah. And how perfect that the shadow is division, right? Because it's like a lot of times we disconnect our body from our mind and all of that. No, we're connecting it all together and showing up with that wholeness and that fullness. So
a really great exercise would be to make a list of all the times when your influence has positively directed leadership.
Oh, I love that.
Even for yourself,
Yeah.
when you have stepped up to the plate and shared, because that is what's going to be required.
Yeah.
Moving forward.
It's true democracy because it's where the leaders listen to the people in the room, you know, and I can, you know, another thing I read was about how often the chief of staff, if you think of the chief of staff, who's one of the advisors to a president or a prime minister or an organizational leader, they very often, their words have so much impact that the leader will take their advice. That's who they confide in. And then this person is the one that disseminates that information out to the team. So I'm loving that where have we positively impacted by showing up, by sharing, by speaking our truth, by guiding those maybe with more authority and power on paper.
Yeah. And I want to just mention the fact that this acidic state is all about virtue, and just feel the graciousness in that word and that frequency of that word.
I always think of the sword of truth. I don't know. So virtue is, because to me it feels so clean and true.
Some food for thought on that. Some steps that he gave us. This is read. Is cease speaking of anyone or anything in a negative light.
Oh.
Okay, that's one.
Cease speaking.
Cease speaking.
Stop doing it now.
Exactly.
Refrain from, because it probably will happen. But how do you?
So you have got to take ownership, or us, each one of us, is responsible for the words that we speak. Second,
and the words that we sit and listen to.
Right.
So if you sit and listen to a bunch of something on a podcast or on a TV show or whatever,
change the channel.
Mm-hmm.
So second is protect yourself from harsh words or thoughts.
That's good.
Okay. I mean, this is some really basic stuff, but this is what's required so that we can stay in alignment with ourselves. And thirdly, be forgiving. Because once we are of that forgiving mind, that is what is allowing us to flower into our virtue.
May love pour through our soul. May light flower in our heart. May warmth radiate our belly. May purity shimmer in our bones. May kindness resound in our voice. May clarity shine through our minds. May solace abound in our life, touching all who we meet. May solace abound in the world, bringing all beings into perfect union. 2 more times. May solace abound in the world, bringing all beings into perfect union. May solace abound in the world, bringing all beings into perfect union. Thank you, Richard.